You're listening to the Wayward Atheist podcast. Hello, everyone. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining us. This is a podcast where borders collide, where the gloves are off, where filters are removed, where we tell you exactly what we think about the news, politics, and religion. The Wayward Atheist podcast is dedicated to free thought, reason, and the pursuit of truth. You can follow us on Twitter at Wayward Atheist, on Spreaker, Stitcher, and iTunes. You can email us at waywardatheistpodcast@gmail.com. or leave us a comment on our Facebook page. So without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the Wayward Atheist podcast. I'm Dave, aka the Great White North.
And I am Dustin Dark.
And tonight we are joined by
Jason.
That's Pastor Jason. That was sexy. It's like, Jason. I'm Jason.
I'm gonna use my deep voice. A little.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and Jason, whose wife are you?
I am nobody's wife.
Yeah,
I'm my own wife. Are you talking about Rachel?
Yes. I'm just fucking with you. Just fucking around.
Man. Yep, I'm the wife.
Well, if you're a pastor, that means you're the bride of Christ. We all know that.
That always freaked me out as a kid. I mean, before like I became an atheist and I was a Christian and I was all for God and everything like that. I would always pause whenever they'd say like, we're going to be Christ's bride. And I'm like I don't think I could do that. I don't know if can I just be a cook or something? Do I have to? I didn't like that.
No, man. He's going to take you home and carry you across the threshold and fuck you. That's the plan.
Yeah, people had weird metaphors back in the day. Definitely.
Well, it was. I think it was seen as more of a contract of protection, right? You're weaker. You're not as capable of taking care of yourself. I keep you from dying. You let me fuck you. That's what I think they were going for. I was actually a Sunday school teacher, and I went to nothing but Christian schools. So,
no kidding.
So I was deep in the metaphors behind the metaphors. That was because
I went to Christian schools too, so I definitely understand that.
Oh, you poor fuck.
Yep.
Did you have like a Becca books?
No, no, check this out. The school was at the church, right? So like we'd have some classes in the auditorium and all the teachers were just part of the church. They weren't qualified. Like this one guy quit working. He used to brag about being a manager at Papa John's and he made all this money, but he quit that just so he could teach at the school. And, the thing is though, I got kicked out of that school 3 times before halfway through 10th grade. I decided, you know what? Fuck this. I might get killed at a public school because that's what they would tell us. Like, don't go to public school, you'll get shot. And so I finally risked it and went on my own. But before that, the first time I got kicked out, I was, this kid I didn't like, I wrote him this hate letter and I sent it to him in the middle of the summertime. And somehow they all knew it was me. Probably because I was a little shithead and told everybody I worship Satan. But, they kicked me out of school in the middle of the summertime. Well, the second time I got kicked out of the school, I came back to school. I apologized and everything. We go to gym class and me and my buddy Paul, I think I've told this story on air before, but, me and my buddy Paul were in this dugout and I saw somebody scratch 9-inch nails in the dugout. I was like, fuck yeah, 9-inch nails. Well, this girl, Missy, she sees me and she sees us talking and she's like, you're fucking Satan. Like that band is Satan and all this shit. And so I said, I'm going to 6 Satan on you then, or whatever. Well, it was her turn to kick the ball, and the person threw the ball or whatever. She kicks it, runs to first base, starts going to second base, realizes I can't make it to second. I got to go back to first. She sprains her ankle or breaks her ankle, whatever. And she gets up and she points at everybody, looks at me as if I caused this whole thing. And so I get kicked out that time. And then the third time, some girl snitched on me because I said a bad word because the pastor assigned this girl to snitch on me. But it was a very, and actually at one point after the girl Missy broke her or sprained her ankle, the pastor sat me down in his office and asked
can I have a hand job?
No, asked me what my demon. No, I'll give him credit. He never did that. But he asked me what my demon's name was. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, if I call your demon's name, will your eyes glow red? And I was like, I don't think that's a thing, dude. Like, I don't know where you went to school.
Mine's name is Steven.
You should have just pulled what I see all the YouTube crazies do. Anytime they're doing an exorcism and they go up to the person and he's like, what is your name? It's always, I am Legion. That's what you should have said. Because it's always Legion.
But I'll be fair. Like, I didn't make it easy on myself either, though, because I didn't try to be I always would brag about like going to these abandoned factories and killing birds, which I never did. But like, so I never made it easy on myself. So I definitely was a target. But the thing is once after 10th grade, like halfway through 10th grade, and I went to public school, I didn't act like that anymore. I was like, man, nobody cares. Like, because the school I went to up in New Hampshire, nobody gave a shit about anything. And so I just, I stopped pretending I worshiped the devil. I became a normal kid and hung out and did what normal kids do. So it's amazing how a public school can make you act differently than how you would act at a Christian school. If you're like me, I
can actually relate to, let's say, everything you just said, like all of it. I was thrown out as well. They accused me of starting a quote satanical cult, and satanic cult. They gave it to me on a piece of paper as to why I'm being expelled, and me and my girlfriend and like they accused me of starting a cult. There's like 5 of us that are throwing out, me and 4 girls, and they expelled us and accused me of being the cult leader. And
was this back to the Satanic Panic time or something like that, or was that after that?
This was like
he's a little too young for that.
Well, the Satanic Panic never ended in Protestant Southeast.
Yeah,
I'm in Alabama. Where are you at?
Oh, right now I'm in Texas, but where I went to church was up in New Hampshire.
Right, that's right. That's what you said. My bad.
Yeah, no, that's good.
It was all the Satanic Panic stories. Like, I listened to a podcast. It was like, let us tell you about the Satanic Panic from the 80s. Like, that was my childhood. I heard all those stories. Kids being kidnapped and tortured and fucking, like, all of it. You go Halloween hunting. You go, like, trick-or-treating and you end up coming home demon-possessed and all that shit. But that's how I ended up in music at church. Is I was learning how to play, and then they expelled me from school, and that was like my way of letting everyone know that I wasn't a cult leader.
Yeah.
Is that I started playing bass at church. So I guess thanks.
It's amazing what fear does to people. That's why one of my songs in the last album I mentioned, I can't remember the lyrics now, but it was the whole premise was basically like, why don't you just admit, oh yeah, that's what the lyrics are. Why don't you just admit right here that the gun to your head is what you really fear? Which the gun to your head, meaning if you don't believe in me, you're going to go to hell. Like that's not love to me. Like that, and it bothers me that a lot of people who believe in God can't. Ask any Christian, like, why do you worship? Is it because you fear because a gun is to your head, or do you just worship because you just feel good doing it because you just want to, like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to love this thing, or, it doesn't give anything back to you, So I don't think anybody will admit to the fact that it's fear,
Well, in my crazy church, right, Deep South, they actually took pride in the fear of God. It says, I wish I was, chapter and verse like I was 9 years ago when I left the church 8 years ago. But there is, fear the Lord thy God, love the Lord thy God. Like there's this whole thing about where there's this almost righteousness in the fear, and then they say that it's more of an awe type of fear. It's that you fall on your face so you don't go blind in the glory of God type of fear. I'm catching the spirit. I'm sorry, guys.
As somebody that was never a believer, really, that saying a God-fearing man never really made sense to me, because if you're in your belief system, if you're a good person, then you should be going to heaven, right? And if God is all love, then you shouldn't be fearing God. So the only people that should be fearing God are the people that believe in hell and think that they're going to hell. So why would a pastor say, I'm a God-fearing man, unless he actually feared God and only placated to the religion out of fear?
I got really, when I was a Christian, I got really good at accepting anything that made sense to me. Like, for example, because this one guy wrote this book, I'll admit this on air, but I used to have this belief that the reason why there's water, this is going to sound so stupid, that the reason why there's water on this planet is because at some point in time, and God made this happen, a comet came by the planet close enough for the sun to heat it enough for the water to fall on the planet. At the same time, the comet was close enough because, remember, there was no mountains before this. It was close enough to gravitationally pull the mountains up at the Earth's weak spots, right? That made sense to me. I accepted it. And so I actually, started thinking.
Have part of it, right? It was comets, but they were crashing into them.
Well, no, there's actually evidence that meteorites, I don't know what term it is, the rocks that they found on Earth, if you heat them up enough, they emit water, and a lot of it, I mean, sure, comets probably too, I'm sure, but a lot of it is big rocks from outer space. But my whole point with all that is never, and this applies to everybody, not just religion, never underestimate the power of people's pride in their own stupidity. Like because and that's something I noticed with every single person that at some point or other, even myself, I'm not saying I'm the only one, but everyone goes through this where they'll be wrong about something, but man, they'll be proud about it. And no matter what evidence you show to them, they don't give a fuck.
Most of the time when you have an opinion, it's based on your cognitive bias, right? So when you come into something, you're biased to it. So I would imagine that a religious person starts out with the answer instead of the question, right? And fills in the question to meet the answer. I also think that if you got them away from the group of the online troll fest or the online debate, I do think like when you get a group that is on one side or another and they start commenting, it just turns into a complete shit show.
Wow.
Right on. Okay, well I think that's enough for the intro. We'll take a quick break. I was watching him smoke out of his fucking bong, so I had to take on my fucking mind. Anyways, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with an interview with Jason Comeau. All right, we're back from the break, and in this segment, we'll be interviewing Jay about his music. Jay, I've noticed over the past, I would say, 8 months since the last time I interviewed you, you've been quite prolific with your music.
Yes. Yes, I have.
First, where are you finding the time? And second, how are you not divorced?
Well, actually, with the second question, we're both pretty independent, people. We like to, she'll sometimes sit here, play games or something, and I'll work on music. Or I also have a job that allows me to work half the week. So I work like Wednesdays through Saturdays. And then I have Sundays through Wednesdays off, like half day Wednesdays. And so that gives me like all that time. So sometimes she'll go to bed and I don't sleep much.
You're a machinist?
4 hours a night.
You're a machinist?
No. I work at an optical lab now, and I basically maintain. Yeah, it's a complicated mess, but so like sometimes she'll go to bed, and so like I said, I get like 4 hours a night, because there's so much.
Right on.
But you asked about what was the second one?
The first one was where do you find the time, and obviously you've got an awesome job, and the second one was more like fucking tongue in cheek, how are you not divorced? But which is a ridiculous question. But what?
I think he was asking for a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was asking for a friend. It's the fucking online gossip. Oh, they're fighting.
People think people do that? With me and her?
I'm sure they would love it.
Oh,
I'm sure they'd fucking love it. Come on.
I was like, I never air my private shit.
I know, but you could see how they would love it, right?
Oh yeah.
That would be like.
Yeah, Rachel and I are very mean to each other on Facebook.
That is true.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I would say if she's talking to Pastor Jay, then it makes sense because he's a total cunt. We're in agreement, right? We are in agreement on that. That he's a total cunt.
He got even worse on the podcast.
Yes, for sure. But you actually brought on some lyric writers, right?
Well, I mean, they've always been part of, it's not like I brought them on. I mean, we've all sort of been like this, as far as our projects that we do. I mean, music's always been my thing, of course, but as far as like the podcast and the YouTube channel, it's always been a collective thing. But yeah, for a while, everyone was kind of taking a break. I ended up working on the podcast. I had some help, obviously, but most of that was kind of just on my own. And so I didn't, like I said, they were doing their own thing. Well, when I decided I kind of wanted to write a new album because I had all these ideas in my head, I talked to one of the guys, Jay, and he came on board as like one of the sole lyric writers. Because sometimes with me, it's hard to like come up with the music and come up because I'm mostly music based. I if my voice went out today, I'd be okay because I've always been an instrumental musician. Singing is just part of what I do sometimes if I feel like the song needs it. And but sometimes like I just don't have the passion to come up with words. I can have that passion when I have the words to sing them. But so Jay, he's a great writer and he's got a lot of cool things coming up, coming down the road. But yeah, he has a knack for kind of getting into my head and understanding where I'm coming from. Especially from working in the past. And so, yeah, he wrote like 80% of the lyrics to that album. And the other great thing about having him on board is the fact that he kind of helped motivate me, and vice versa. And a lot of times, like I would send him 1,000 messages on WhatsApp and sometimes he wouldn't respond, but he'd be there to listen. Because a lot of times when I talk out my ideas, if I'm having an issue with a mix or something, I don't have anybody to talk to. So sometimes talking to him just knowing that he's hearing it helps me kind of formulate ideas, I guess. So he's helped a lot in that regard too. There's a lot of good support there. And, not to mention a few other people that have helped, like Rich Camp and his daughter sang in one of the songs in the last album. So that was really cool. Right on.
We'll give Jay his props too. So it's Crowfoot.
Yeah, Jay Crowfoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how the whole music thing kicked back in because I knew I needed a break from the podcast because that was a lot of work for me. And so yeah, I knew like I ended up selling a bunch of guitars and buying a bunch of new instruments, and I decided because for a while I was writing really heavy stuff with like 8-string guitars and all this shit, and I decided I kind of wanted to go back. I was listening to a lot of Alice in Chains, so I wanted to go back kind of old school, like more of a raw tone. And so I bought this cool 6-string aftermarket guitar and put some EMG, some vintage EMG pickups in there, and got a Fender Telecaster. I got a 7-string again. But yeah, I decided to try some new things. And once I showed Jay a lot of the music, once he was starting to get into it, and one song, The Day I Die, that's his baby right there. Yeah, it just kind of took off, and I got kind of addicted into, re-addicted, with writing and producing and all this stuff. But the thing is over the last couple of years, since I took my break from writing, I learned so much more because you can never learn enough about mixing and mastering. And so because I think I did a good job with the mix for what I have to work with. I compare it to a lot of my past music, and that's why I'm remastering a lot of old stuff. But yeah, I'm just hooked. That's why I'm finishing up a hybrid album, which is 4 songs that were scattered through other albums, and because they were always written like by themselves. And 2 of the songs written by Jeremy Stevens. He's the other guy coming on board for the new stuff we're doing. And I'm putting those 4 together, and I also have 3 other songs that you've heard on the podcast, but I've like refined them and made them big. I sang in one of them. I'm singing to really short segment, but yeah, I can't stop this addiction. I think another thing too is as I'm getting older and I'm losing my hearing, I'm kind of in a desperate rush to get as much out as I can, you know. So there's a lot that goes in a play here. So yeah.
Let's not take too much time off from the podcast for the music, right?
Do I now?
Let's not take too much time off from the podcast. That's all I'm saying. As a fan of the podcast.
No, actually, no. After this, that's the other thing is our long-term goal is after this album's written, we're all 3 of us are going to hunker down and start working on. I already have the story in my head for season 3,
yeah,
and 4 and 5. We actually have the storyboards written for, you know, so there's a lot coming. But it's like right now my brain is exploding with all this energy of music, and I'm just like pushing and pushing.
Because it's been a minute since
it has,
2,
and
right?
I feel like the podcast be reasonable, you know, like
yeah.
And, you know, I pushed out 15 episodes, but I'm gonna get back into it unless something happens to me where I just can't, you know, where I physically can't. But I'm definitely gonna get back into it. That was very fun. I get really addicted to writing that too. And
you do. I'm sorry to take over the music. I'm going to let Dustin ask you a question in a second. You do have a knack for writing quirky, ironic shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I would describe it. And
I've started to realize that the character has really come into fruition, especially towards the last episodes, because Pastor Jay simultaneously gets dumber and douchier at the same time. He's the image of what I was just talking about earlier about, you know, being proud of your own stupidity.
Yeah.
Kind of like on the, and I made this connection because I've been watching Trailer Park Boys again, and now I've been listening to the podcast. I made this connection and I didn't mean to, but my character kind of resembles Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. Like how much of an asshole he is, but how dumb he is. And I fucking love that. I don't know why I love that, but it's that dumb humor fucking gets me off.
Ricky's a hero in Canada, I'll have you know.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's not the asshole on the show. The asshole is like Leahy and fucking the big fucking
of course.
gut.
Yeah. No, I'm just like, I think he does a great job at playing the asshole. I think it's great. Like, so I'm not judging that or saying it's bad. Not at all. He's fucking amazing.
For sure. Dustin, you had a question.
Well, first, I think that's a really compelling Pastor character, right? But that role empowers that personality so much, right? You don't have to think for yourself. All the answers are right here in this book. Do I have to read it? No, those are hard words. But I can't use it to justify my emotions. You slut, put on more clothes. So that tends to be the way a lot of preachers use it, or just people in general, they use religion as a way to justify their bad actions.
Yeah,
and they don't even look into that bitch a little bit. So good job with that. And 2, anything that you've written that was inspired by Alice in Chains, float it my way. Like I grew up on this shit. I love the MTV Unplugged album that they did. That was some of the stuff that pushed me to pick up instruments myself.
The only thing I can say, I mean, I don't have a song. A lot of my music. Actually, let me give you an example of how I do kind of borrow from artists. Cloud Kicker is one of my favorite instrumental rock. This guy named Ben Sharp, he pretty much does exactly what I do. He's a pilot, but he sits in his house and he records. He uses an EBow on his guitar a lot, and I use that a lot, you know, but in my own way, just because I love that whole epic sound.
What is it?
It just it's like basically this little magic little L-shaped thing that you put next to a string on a guitar or a bass, and the battery inside helps resonate the string, so you can sustain your string. And so in music, a lot of times when you're playing a melody, you're playing some chords, if you have a drone note playing in the background, it could alter the actual feeling. Like if you play the major scale, as you're playing that major scale, if you have a different note playing in the background, it's going to alter the way that major scale sounds.
Kind of like a bagpipe type of situation.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's exactly what it is, dude. The EBow basically is like my version of the bagpipe, I guess. But, wait, what was I saying? How did we get into this part? I'm so sorry. I got distracted.
You mentioned Alice in Chains, and here we are.
Oh, so what I was trying to get at is, so I do borrow from artists, but as far as inspiration, I think the only thing I can say that actually in the album that's the most, I guess, Alice in Chains inspired is my last one. Some version of The Meaning of Life. That I think I tried to put my version of their tone. Obviously not the singing, because Lane is a god.
Right.
But I mean, as far as the music and the whole production, I mean, you have some songs that are heavy, but then you have some songs that have that chill vibe, and I tried to capture that like 80s rock sound without being like glam rock 80s sound, if that makes any sense. Or 90s. 90s is what I meant to say, not 80s.
Well, I listened to some of your more recent music, and you said you had some stuff that was more inspired by Alice in Chains. What I assumed you mean is it would be a little darker, a little moodier, probably a little more vague.
Oh, listen to any of my old shit.
What it's getting around to.
Listen to Forever. I just released that again as a remaster. Listen to that. That's a fucking dark album, dude.
I
like that.
I just realized that. So, Jason's done a bunch of albums. David has a degree in music. Dustin was in a fucking metal band and writes and plays the guitar. And I'm an asshole. I can't sing. I can't fucking dance. I can't play the guitar. I can build shit. That's what I can do.
I have a recording of David singing Jingle Bells. Jingle Bells. We might have to auction that off one day. It's nice.
That'd be awesome.
I didn't do it, and I want. You know what? When I'm just quick, I was going to do it in show tunes, but I didn't. That would have been.
But yeah, I didn't expect you to say, be hitting the harmonics that they did, and playing frogs or any, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I didn't think you would be making the missing album or anything.
Right.
I would be interested to see you bring in that type of atmosphere into it. So I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Well, all my albums are like numbered with Roman numerals because I'm stupid. Forever, I think, is the second, but there's
Ramen
another
noodles?
There's another album I have called Portsmouth, which is right after Forever, and it's all instrumental, but the song titles are very long because I kind of wanted to tell the story by the song title and have the music just guide you or some cheesy shit like that. And that album also came from around the same-ish time that I wrote Forever, because those are some really, really dark times, in my life. And it definitely shows in those two albums. And I have some other, albums too that are a little darker. But the last album is definitely not as dark as the other stuff. This next album
sounded like.
Go ahead.
The last one sounded like you might have had a handful of mushrooms before you sat down a couple times.
Dude, I
kind of got that kind of spacey, floaty type of feel. It was nice.
Dude, I don't think I was sober writing any of that album.
When you decide, or not when you decide, I guess you get the feeling, but what is the first step? And this, like, take since I've never made a song or written a song, take me through a quick synopsis of the process of, like, what is the first thing you do, the second thing you do.
All right, I'm going to give you two scenarios. I'm going to give you what I kind of used to do and what I do now. And these are my ways. I'm sure if you go to college and you could take a songwriting class, you're going to tell you my way is wrong, and it probably is. But right now when I write music, I usually will, get really fucked up, pull out a guitar or a bass or something, and I'll sit in front of my computer and I'll just start doodling. This is kind of, I'll like once a year, I'll sit down and write like 50 little kind of doodles or tunes. And I think, that might work. And then I'll go through it a month later and delete a lot of them. Right now I have like 30 new ideas for the next album that we're working on, but I'll start with the doodles. And then if they keep my interest, I can listen to them. Like if I'm at work, I'll listen to them and I'll start layering things in my head. That's the only time I can think of music in my head. Cause when I'm not writing, I don't think about music. And I generally hate when music's on really loud around me. It's the weirdest thing, but, so that's kind of how I do it, and it builds up from there. And the problem with that for me is sometimes I can start with something really good, and then I just can't make that connection, right? And so I end up just either scrapping this song or just holding on to it forever. So another method that I do, but it's kind of cheating, but is I'll sit here and I'll write a guitar line, and I think that sounds cool. Then I'll write a bass line, that sounds cool. And then for these 4 or 8 measures, I will layer as much instruments as I can with that little block to see if it all still makes sense. Like if I can hear everything still, right? Once I get to the point where it just becomes mush, I'll take instruments out. Then I copy and paste everything like 1,000 times. And then what I start doing is I start going through the song and pulling out like different things. So what you end up having is you start creating, from this big block of shit you created, you start kind of sculpting out this idea, verse, chorus, verse. So sometimes I use that method if I'm having a hard time either finishing a song or just coming up with a new idea. And so I prefer the first method though, because it feels more organic. It feels more natural, but sometimes it pays off and sometimes it's just a shitstorm. But yeah, that's generally how I do it. I don't think of ideas. Like I said, I don't walk around. There's a lot of people that can. A lot of R&B artists are really good at that. I suck at it. So usually I have to hear something, and this is going to sound really woo, but whenever I play, I'll just doodle until I find something that like hits me. That's like the least cheesy way I can say it. But if I feel that, if it resonates, I stick with that, and then I keep working from there.
When did you start playing instruments?
Oh, back when I was in the Marine Corps still, I was home on leave. This like back in 2001, I think. I was home on leave and I went to visit a friend, and my friend wasn't home, but his brother was, and I was just hanging out waiting for my friend, and his brother asked if I wanted to learn the guitar. I was like, sure, kid. And he showed me how to read guitar tablature, which is basically the guitarist sheet music, and it's very simple to understand. And from there, I just started playing. I spent almost, I would say 10 years just playing the guitar, and that was all I did. And then I had like 12 guitars. I learned like 100 songs. I was just badass. And then, but I never got good at solos, by the way. I just got good at rhythm. And then I watched Ryan Martini from Mudvayne play the bass, and it blew I could watch this dude for days. And he's got his new side project, which is the Jazz Fusion project. And his bass sound is so amazing to my ears. And so for like 3 years, all I did was play the bass, and I try to copy his style, which helped me in the long run. But after that, I started kind of tinkering with writing music, and yeah. But I mean, that's pretty much, I didn't mean to give my whole history. You only asked.
No, that's cool. Did you, obviously you were home on leave, when you started learning, did you bring a guitar on deploy with you, or? Actually,
yeah. Well, when I got back home, to San Diego after my leave was up, the first thing I did when I had money was buy a Yamaha guitar. But yeah, when I went on deployment, man, I was so pissed off my first deployment because I was on the LHD Boxer. It's that boat that's at the end of the movie Captain Phillips, if you've seen it. And I brought a guitar with me. I was able to break down the guitar and fit it into a duffel bag, and then put all my clothes around it. And, I knew it was a throwaway guitar. Like one of them I threw away when I was in Iraq, but I brought it with me on the boat. And I brought this little device that would let me hear me play the guitar, but I lost a power adapter. And I ordered like 40 of those things, and every time, like, the mail would never come through, and I was so pissed. So I spent a lot of time on the boat just air guitaring to music that I knew how to play. Like, I'd put headphones in and just kind of play, strum along. And then my second deployment was the same thing. I just broke down this cheap-ass guitar and brought a little tiny amp. I was advanced party. We were in Okinawa. We just got back from Iraq. stayed home for a few months, went to Okinawa. Then the new CO was like, I've never been to Iraq before. Let's go, guys. And we're like, fuck you.
Holy shit.
And so we go back to Iraq, but I was the advanced party because I was going home. Like, this was my last deployment and I wasn't re-enlisting. And so we flew from Okinawa to Guam to Thailand, then to this little tiny fucking island called Diego Garcia. It's 100 miles south of India. And if you look at the island on the map, it looks like a wet footprint, you know, like when you step on concrete after your foot. It's weird. Some dude caught a hammerhead shark, a little baby hammerhead shark while I was there. But as we were taking off because our plane broke down, and like 3 days later, we were like getting back on a new plane.
You're so random. It's not. You're hilarious.
I'm sorry. This is a good story.
No, it is good. I'm just laughing because it's like hammerhead sharks, guy got lost. It's really funny.
Well, look, I'm really baked right now, and a lot of times when I talk,
awesome.
all these ideas
awesome.
come.
It's awesome.
Well, anyway, so we're getting back, and I was a CH-53 helicopter mechanic, so I didn't really have to, like, we had rifles, but I didn't have to like do a lot of the hard work that those awesome infantry guys did. Like, they did some badass shit. I didn't. I just fixed helicopters. And so I set that up to say this. As we were leaving our tents to go back to the plane, we're going to the chow hall. We were just me and the guys that were with me, we were just casually walking to the chow hall because we didn't give a fuck. Well, there was a whole not a battalion. It was like I forget the fucking term now. I can't believe I can't remember it, but it was a small unit, and they were standing at attention. And I was carrying my duffel bag that had my sea bag that had my guitar in it. And I was carrying a little tiny 10-inch amp on my right hand. As I'm walking by this unit, the staff sergeant turns around. Platoon, thank you. What, dude? I'm a bad Marine. Like, I know my MOS. I know I got everything to show. I am not a stolen valor type kind of guy. But this is why I didn't really list. I was really bad about terminology. I never took, like, you could rank up faster if you took these courses. I never took those courses because as soon as I got in, I knew I wanted to get out. But I knew I had to get out the right way. So I did 5 years of being a shitbag. But I was walking by this unit, and the staff sergeant turned around, and he thought he would embarrass me in front of his platoon. He's like, hey, Marine. Because that's the one thing. If you're a Marine, you know, as you're walking, someone's always going to shout, hey, Marine. And so I heard that. I stopped. I'm like, yeah, staff sergeant. He's like, what unit are you with? And I told him, I was like, I'm a HMH 465. And he's like, oh. Like, they let you carry that? I'm like, yep. And his whole platoon snickered, and he's turned around and yelled at them, told them to stand back to attention. Man, I had it fucking easy.
Well, I wouldn't call it easy in comparison to being home, right? You had it easy in comparison to the guys that are on the ground kicking in doors, fighting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, but you didn't have it easy compared to the average citizen back in the United States.
Right. Yeah, I guess. I mean,
it's relative. It
is relative, but you got to give credit to the citizens because a lot of these people work fucking hard. And, you know, some of the jobs I've had since I've been back have been harder than some of the shit that I've done in the Marine Corps. So, I understand what you're saying.
But let's be realistic. You are in North America, and it's a pretty fucking great place to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even with your shitty job, you can have a great life.
Well, you can argue that it's a great place to be, depending on your depending on who you are. that can be an argument to be made. Some people definitely have it easier than others. So, yeah.
For sure.
I didn't mean to ramble. By the way,
that's cool.
That's fine. So when did you decide to take, why start recording, selling? Like, when did you make that decision to really dig down and make a career or a deeper hobby out of it?
Yeah, definitely a deeper hobby. I don't know what it is about me where I can't, I suck at promoting myself. It's not, I'm not a snob where I'm like, I write music just for me. I mean, I do write it for me, but I also put it out because I hope people will like it. But I just feel I just can't be the guy that, because to me, I don't mind, like, when people self-promote, that's fine. Like, everyone needs to do it. It's a good thing. It gets your shit out there. But there are some people out there that do it to the point where you're like, man, you love yourself so much, you know, and I get kind of paranoid about that. But back to the other question about like what kind of snapped at me, basically, is what you're asking. Like what made me decide? Okay,
when and what? Yeah.
Well, basically, I was kind of like back in the day when I was up in New Hampshire. This guy got me a pirated copy of this program called Cakewalk, and I realized that like I had the program, but I kind of didn't know what to do with it. And at the time, like when Pro Tools version like 6 was out, I kind of was finagling with it, but didn't really know what to do. But I got this looper pedal, and I realized that I was really good at kind of piecing together like 2 different pieces of music, you know, like verse, chorus, you know. I wasn't good at it, but I knew I could. There was something there, and I kind of started translating a lot of that into music editing software, and I learned as much as I could with Cakewalk, and I got to the point where I could write an album, but it's one that's not out because I lost a hard drive. But one day I bought this plugin to help me with audio editing. And I got an email saying that right down the road, this is when I lived in Maryland, that right down the road at this recording studio, there was a seminar on this, you know, plugin. So I went to it, and I was kind of feeling cocky, like I knew my shit, like whatever. But I was outside smoking a cigarette, and the studio owner comes out, and we're talking, and I kind of was like bragging, and he's like, yeah. And he asked me this one question about like, I don't know if you guys will understand this, but you know, where do you apply reverb? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, if you want to put reverb on a track, what do? You know? I'm like, oh, I just put it on the track. He's like, why don't you just put it on Ascend? I'm like, what the fuck's Ascend? And then if you don't know, Ascend is basically where you can create a new track, put the reverb on that track, and no matter how many instruments you have, you can send the audio out of all of those instruments or however many you want into that reverb, and it sends it back out into the appropriate track, and you can control all these different instruments with this reverb with just one plugin. I didn't know that at the time. So I realized that this studio had a school, and so I tried using my GI Bill to kind of pay for it, but I realized it was expensive, and I didn't want to drive all the way to the studio every month, you know, every week. So I looked at Berkeley. I decided to look at online courses because with a lot of audio production, obviously going to this school is a big help, especially if you're playing an instrument. But with a lot of the audio production, with the world that we live in today, I mean, you can learn a lot just online. And this school is very strict; they're very rigorous with the training. So it's not like you can just go in there and half-ass it. And so I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And so that's what I did. And I did it though for me because I knew I was going to continue to write music. And in fact, I wrote like 2.5 albums before I went to the school. And some of the music's on my albums today, but I knew I was going to do this forever as long as I could, and I wanted to be good at doing it. And I didn't want to take a lot of time YouTubing. So yeah, that's what I did. And now it's a fucking addiction, man. Once you know you can do it.
Have you ever done a live gig?
Yeah, I was in 2 bands back when I was in San Diego. That was during my bass years. There's some YouTube videos out there of me playing shitty quality, but yeah, I was in a band called Atheists. And another band, which I still give my buddy Corey shit over, he called it Muscle, but he spelled it with a T. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, we weren't even heavy metal. Like, that would kind of make sense, but no, we didn't really play a lot, but, you know, it was fun. But, you know, I don't think that I ever want to play live. I mean, I'm not saying it would be something I wouldn't do, but being in bands and knowing how much of a struggle it is, like, I would have to, like, if we were going to play any of my old shit, I'd have to like teach everybody everything. If we were going to play new shit, now you got to deal with like the next year or two of coming up with ideas that everyone has to agree on, you know, and then you have to, when it comes to touring, unless you're this big band that everyone does shit for you, it seemed like a cool idea, but I've heard too many horror stories. I didn't like it. And it's just easier for me to write cool tunes and just, you know, put them out there.
All right. Dustin, you have any more questions?
Well, I have a comment. No, I definitely understand like where you wouldn't want to be that like, you know, touring band guy. Like anyone that tries to make a career out of art is is likely going to have a very hard road ahead of him. It's almost a sickness to really invest yourself into an art to the point that you become good enough, and then you have to take it on the road and prove it to everybody, and it really has to control your life for it to ever work. So I get it. And I also want to draw real quick. Dave was like, I realized earlier, like, I'm the only person here that doesn't play. These gentlemen here are educated musicians, and I'm a guy that got a guitar when he was 12. There's large spaces of difference.
Yes. But
you know what, man?
But compared, you're good at playing the guitar and you're good at singing. Okay,
I can do what I do, but that's the end of it.
Okay,
you know what though, with what you said though, like I'm just standing. This is a popular phrase, but hold on one second. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants. I mean, I don't think I'm that good at what I do, but I only think that way because it makes me want to be better. So it's not like a bad thing necessarily. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. But there's so many people. Like, so I know what you're saying, Dustin, but at the same time, I hear you and I go, yeah, but I'm in the same boat as you because I feel the same way with these people that are, way better at things than I am. So the thing, I'm sorry, I just gotta say this 'cause I'm gonna forget it, and it's the thing about art, and I won't do this again to you, Dustin, I promise. But the thing about art, like I don't look down on anybody that tries to make money off of art. But for me personally, like it's nice if I make $1 or $2 off an album. That's why I always give the option for people to pay. But I don't think I can feel honest about what I do if I felt like anything outside of me was going to influence me. If people were paying me. And so when people do that, it's great. Even with podcasters, people, make money. That's great. Everyone wants to make $1 and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it's hard for me. Like I have to not think about any outside influences. And I feel like a lot of people forget that because a lot of people these days, then they might be good at what they do, but a lot of people tend to focus more on making a living, which it's hard. And it frustrates me because I don't want people to end up not doing what they love doing because they're not making a living. That's why I decided I wanted to make a living outside of my art and have my art be on my own time. It feels better for me,
I bet you grew up with that like Nirvana type of music.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that, that's where a lot of that comes from. Like,
I guess.
I know that we're famous, but we don't want to be. Like, we're going to try to make a shittier album next time, so you douchebags will stop listening.
Well, I won't go that far.
I'm not saying it's that.
Yeah,
but
no.
It's this. I do it because I want to do it. I'm not doing it so that people will watch me. I get that they went overboard with it, and Kurt would literally be like, "I don't want people to listen." What?
And for me, it's like I do it for me, but it is nice to put out. It is nice when people, give back, give me, compliments or say they liked it. Like that feels really good to me. And I mean, there's not a lot of people because I don't promote myself a lot, which is my fault. But the people that do listen really enjoy it. And that makes me feel good. So even though I'm still writing for myself, when they recognize it, that feels good. It's like an accomplishment because it's them liking something and I didn't force them to like it, So, yeah. Well, I've also learned that I'm better at doing what I do because I have the heart. Like if people use my music for the podcast, that's fine. But whenever people ask me to write, I try. But I have such a sound that it's hard to detach from. Like I can't write happy music. And so there's a guy now that I'm in the process of trying to come up with ideas. And, a lot of them aren't really like he uses for his podcast, he uses some of my music, but he's doing a YouTube channel. And, the songs aren't really exactly what he's looking for, which I completely understand, but part of me understands that I could never be that guy that does that for a living because I can't please everybody. I can only please myself, and so it's easier for me to have people come and like me and just have a group of people that like me than me throw myself out to everybody and then have all that rejection, which that doesn't bother me that much because that's just the way life works. Not everyone's going to like everything, but yeah.
I think that's kind of the way a lot of us approach this show.
Yeah.
Like none of us bring home any money. We just show up because we really enjoy what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as like someone paying us to do other than what we're doing, I don't think that would go.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
But like I said, there's nothing wrong with him. Some people can pull it off.
No,
good at it. Yeah.
No, God. If someone would want to pay me to write an album, I've been trying to write one for like 10 years. So hold your breath. But I would fucking try, man. I'd try for it.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so I think we're gonna wrap this segment up. We will pimp your stuff at the end, but since it's the interview segment, let's if people wanted to support your music, if they wanted to donate to your music, or if they just wanted to find you, where would they do that?
They could go to I have two websites. One's called aloststateofmind.com. And the
There's
other
like 20,000 albums there too, by the way.
Yeah, there's I think 10 right now, and an 11th one is about to come out within the next couple weeks.
They're legit, like, $100 million musicians that don't even have 10 albums out.
Oh, I know, but their quality's probably a lot better.
Yeah, but that's because a producer, manager,
when you're by yourself, when you're mostly by yourself, especially with the production. There's good and bad. The good is you can get it done quicker and you don't have to deal with anybody. The bad is your production might not be top notch, but I'm okay with it. I'm happy with what I do. But yeah, aloststateofmind.com and aloststateofmind.bandcamp.com and everything, the new album, like, I think I made that one to where you have to pay for that if you want it. Just cause we're all proud of that. But, they're all, most everything else is, you can just download it for free. If you want to donate, you can. There's a pay if you want option on both websites. And, if, like I said, I'd love feedback. I'd love to, hear what people have to say, and it's always fun interacting. So, yeah.
Donate, you cheap cunts. All right. Okay. I didn't mean that. You can donate if you want to. Jason did not endorse that statement at all.
I did not. Nope.
I'll endorse it. Give the man some shekels, goddammit.
All right. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back from the break, and in this segment, we're going to talk about stolen valor, and specifically Canada's highest military official, the Minister of Defense. I'm going to fucking completely butcher this name, so it's Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan has apologized to Canadian and American troops that he served with in Afghanistan for claiming that he was the architect of Canada's most famous and bloodiest combat operation of that war.
Can you? I got kind of interject real quick. Can you read like the first four words again?
Sure. Defense Minister.
Nope. When the name starts.
Okay. Has apologized to Canadian.
Nope. Say the name and then say has apologized.
Okay.
Say it.
Okay. Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan has apologized.
Okay, right there. For like 30 seconds, I thought has apologized was his last name too. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so let me do that over again, okay? Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan has apologized to Canadian and American troops that he served with in Afghanistan for claiming that he was the architect of Canada's most famous and bloodiest battle of that war. The minister made the claim in a speech last week in India. He told a gathering of security experts in New Delhi on April 18th that on my first deployment to Kandahar in 2006, I was the architect of Operation Medusa, where we removed 1,500 Taliban fighters off the battlefield, and I was proudly on the main assault. This description This description was denounced as a bold-faced lie by a retired Canadian officer familiar with the planning done for Operation Medusa in late summer and fall of 2006. Other officers who served in Afghanistan expressed similar anger and disappointment in Sanjan's speech. What I should have said, this is now the defense minister bag-licking for his lies. What I should have said was that our military successes are the result of the leadership, service, and sacrifice of many dedicated women and men in the Canadian forces, Sanjit said in a statement on Thursday. I regret that I didn't say this then, but I want to do so now. It's a little, I would say that's a little too late.
I think there's a difference between I'm sorry, I meant to include everyone in this, and it was my fucking plan, and I was there to execute it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a whoopsie fucking daisies.
Yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, is there a possibility that he said that to the people? I don't know a lot of the backstory, but maybe he said that to the people to knowing that he was wrong, but knowing that it might impress them or something weird like that.
But do you think it's okay to use other people's service to impress people? No. I'm not. No, absolutely not. No, what I'm saying is maybe he could have either got caught up in the moment or. This is a politician. So think of it like.
Yeah, I know.
Think of it who is your. Who I can't remember his name now. Fuck! Why is his name escaping me?
Well, let me ask you this: What was the talk about? So, who was he talking?
So he's talking to other defense ministers and other defense experts in India.
So, do you think maybe he's he might have said that, knowing that was the wrong thing to say, but he might have been saying that to these other guys, the other defense ministers, to maybe impress them or something like that. Do you think?
Yeah, but that doesn't make it better for me.
No, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's morally better or whatever. I'm just saying it's kind of like knowing you're going to do something wrong, but you're doing it because you're trying to do something else better. And then you're like, it's like I'll shoot first and ask questions later type of, it could be something like that.
Oh man, it's so tough. So let me finish the article, okay. and then we'll dissect it. Every military operation our forces undertook in Afghanistan, including Operation Medusa, relied on the courage and dedication of many individuals across the Canadian forces. My comments were in no way intended to diminish the role that my fellow soldiers and my superiors played in Operation Medusa. Okay, so here's the thing, is he went to India. So backstory. He's a Sikh. He's Canadian, but he's a Sikh Canadian. So he's Indian by heritage, but minority Indian. He went there. He was having a hard time with Indian officials because he's a Sikh, and there was even some people in the Sikh community that were kind of calling him out on some things. Then he gave this speech. He bragged about being the architect of this famous Canadian battle to try to make himself look better in India in front of these other officials. And I just don't think that shit flies at all, man. It's not right either. Yeah. You just can't do that. And it's 2007, man. People are going to see that.
Well, what I'm saying, like I said, I'm not saying it was right what he did, but I can see this being one of those situations where he has to say that, even if it's the wrong thing, to gain something from the other people. That could be something. I'm not saying that is it.
I think it. His job is, hold on. His job is a politician, but not only that, he has to relate to this other country, right? He's What's the word we go for? He needs them to like him and trust him, so he feels like, okay, I'm going to stretch the truth on this. I'm going to gain some respect for these people for the greater good of the country.
And if he goes in there, if he goes in there and he's talking to these people, and he's in the middle of this speech, he's not going to have time to go, and then look what all these soldiers and this and this and that and that. He's going to say me because he's representing.
Okay,
hang on. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right.
Hang on.
I'm just saying that could be a reason.
Hang on 1 second. He had no reason whatsoever to do that. He has the highest awarded medals that the Canadian armed force member can get. So he's basically earned a Purple Heart aside from this. So he could just be like, yeah, bitch, I have a Purple Heart. He said he was the architect of the battle. Okay, it wasn't like I just took fucking part. I fucking saved a guy that was shot in the leg. I planned the battle.
Mm-hmm.
That shit,
Again, like you have to understand that I completely agree with you, but I'm also offering a reason as a possible
as a
reason.
Canadian person, I am not. Okay, like I had friends that served, and I just don't think it's fucking right, man. I just like
it's still not right, right?
I
exactly.
I don't think it's any better than some douchebag that goes into a bar and fucking says, I served to get free drinks. I actually think it's worse because he's a highly educated person. He is the highest military official in Canada. And how do you not think that is going to fucking play? Like, how do you not know that that's going to come back around?
Which, by the way, Jason, I've been hanging out with these snow people for a little while here. I'm going to translate that for you. What he just said is take your olive branch and shove it up your ass. He doesn't care.
Yes.
There's none of it. Not having it. Anyway.
But I do want to be clear. I wasn't.
I understand what you're.
Yeah. Okay.
You're trying to look at it from his point of view, but. You don't have the entire story, and I
understood. For me, a lot of times, if something upsets me, and as much as I can do this, if something upsets me, if I can at least understand, like the situation better, it helps me not get angry. Like if somebody cuts me off, even if it's made up, I'll tell myself, well, I don't know, maybe they're in trouble, maybe they got a family member that's in trouble. I don't know. And it helps me go, if I understand something like, if I was pissed about this, if I reasoned that in my head, I would still be pissed, but at least I would kind of make sense of it. You know
what's far more impressive to me than even if he was the architect of that battle is that he is the first minority in Canadian history to hold the position of defense minister. That is far more fucking impressive than for him to get up there and lie. And even if he was the architect,
that's even further. That's even further. If he's that smart, that's even further evidence that there could be a reason. Maybe there's something's up his sleeve, man.
No,
dude. Smart people do sleazy things all the time. Okay. Like I get that you're being as charitable as you can, but it sounds to me like this is a braggadocious dude that didn't realize how much people are going to be fact checking him.
Right.
We
got one of those. We got one of those in this country.
Right. Well, so I think we understand what's going on here. This is also it's not like someone claiming that they wrote your music, where you can go to the page and see, well, that's not your name there, right?
Right.
People don't sign on to these battles. Like I can't tell you like who's the architect of what was it, shock and awe? I don't motherfucking know. And if someone would be like, well, I'm the defense minister, I was fucking part of it, most people are going to be like, well, he must have fucking been part of it. So I think that's what he was going on. And like Dave said earlier, he forgot it was 2017. And there's 35 microphones on you right now. And everyone's Googling everything you say as they do it, because there's assholes like us with the show that would love to prove you wrong.
Man, I might sound a little paranoid here, but I live my life as if there's always a fucking camera on me.
There is?
But no, yes, you're right. But I keep that in the back of my mind. And it makes me paranoid. But it also keeps me in check from doing anything stupid, like stealing a Coke or punching somebody in the face or whatever, No.
I used to break. Hold on, real quick. I used to break a lot of laws until the Snowden revelations. And then I calmed my ass down, man. Calmed my ass way down. Go ahead, Dave.
So imagine this, if you will. And I know this is going to kind of appeal to emotions, but I do think in a situation where it's our bloodiest battle in Afghanistan, 1,500 Taliban members are killed, I do think that there is emotion in the story as well. Imagine you're a mother of a Canadian or an American soldier, and you don't really know how your son died, but the Canadian defense minister gets on this fucking speech in India and says that he was the architect of the battle, and then you're now thinking that is the person that had something to do with or close tie to, or maybe saw your son or daughter in the last moments before the battle even took place, and the motherfucker wasn't even there.
What did he? I'm gonna add a question. You said archetype?
Architect.
Architect.
Like planned it. He drew it up. It was his idea.
So now I'm confused because if he makes that claim, he's a defense minister.
But he wasn't the defense minister at the time. He was a soldier at the time. That clears it up.
Here, I get it.
You get it now, right?
I get it now. Yeah,
in Afghanistan, he was a highly decorated soldier. It wasn't like he wasn't a fucking badass soldier. He was.
Was he in this battle?
I'm not sure if he was actually in the battle, but he wasn't in the battle in the way that he said he was. He wasn't the architect, and he wasn't on the first front line.
Okay. Well, that's sleazy.
Well, we have that shit here in the States.
What does it mean to be an architect of a battle? Like, you're at
the planning of it.
Yeah, you planned it, you designed it, all the strategic moves, you planned ahead, you imagine what they're gonna do and all that kind of shit. So yeah.
Have you ever played a game of Civilization?
I've played Command and Conquer
or Total War.
Well, I mean, before you go in, you're going to lay out a strategy, right? Where you corner everybody, make sure your lines are tight. You want to have all your intel, and you decide how many people go in and what kind of equipment, and how much mortar we're firing over how much amount of time, and that's the architect of the plan. That's the person that's getting all the what they would call bean counters almost in the military, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the next point. As an official of the Canadian federal government, an elected official, because he's an elected MP, and then he was given a position of cabinet from our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Do you think that he can still hold his position as defense minister with the servicemen so angry at him right now?
Well, I mean, whether there was a sincere apology or not, don't you think that the fact that because a lot of politicians won't apologize, and I don't know if he's gonna I don't think what he did is enough for him to worry about him losing his job or anything. So I feel like, the apology may be a little sincere. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the guy obviously, but. Do you think that can maybe kind of smooth things down, or do you think people are just going to be too stubborn? They're just going to hold on to the fact that he said this, and then just oust him.
Servicemen, especially the ones that were there at the time, will probably hang on to that. From all accounts that I've seen, looking it up, and I had much harsher reaction than I'm having right now earlier, where I was like, everything, he's a cunt, but.
Right, and as someone who is a Canadian, I can't obviously relate to it. So I'm sure there's a lot more. You have a lot more of a story behind you than than I'm just kind of coming at this news. Yeah. So I'm just throwing out. Yeah.
Well, I don't there was just no it's almost like everybody had one of those kids in their school. Where it's like, my daddy drives a Corvette. We live in a mansion. If somebody said something, he's like, I have a Fender guitar. You know what I mean? It's almost like he was doing that.
Well, he in this, you probably have this up there too, but we have a lot of stolen valor stuff down here where, they'll watch YouTube.
Get into that for us.
Yeah, there's, you go type in stolen valor on YouTube and you'll see, and I recognize, especially if it's a Marine Corps uniform, I'll recognize some of the signs, but there's some other, like there was this one video where this guy comes up and you can even tell, like in the Marine Corps, there's a certain way you have to act. Like you don't take your cover off outside. Your cover is always on your hat or whatever. And there's certain we're very strict with the dress code with the Marine Corps. And so a lot of times with the stolen valor videos, they'll come up upon this guy. He'll be wearing sunglasses. His shit will be all fucked up. He'll have captain chevrons along with like a sergeant major chevron. It's like, what the fuck? And it just doesn't, like, there was this one guy, this seemed like a homeless guy. He had like a gunnery sergeant patch on, but he had like a major insignia on. So it was like, it just doesn't make sense. But a lot of these people, I feel, are a little, they could have mental disorders, which is nothing wrong with mental disorders as long as you get them treated. But I also feel like there are, I don't know if it's society or if it's, playing video games or whatever, but we've turned into a country that everyone has to be a hero. If you're not a hero, you're a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of people come back and they tend to over exaggerate. I mean, I did it too. When I came back, I didn't feel like I did know. So I over exaggerated here and there. I didn't go crazy with it, but I didn't but nowadays I'm happy to tell everybody, like, I never killed anybody. The only action I ever saw was mortar rounds coming in on our base in Iraq. But, I saw the missiles take off right before they hit Baghdad because I was on the LHD Boxer in the Persian Gulf, so that was kind of fun to watch, but not the killing part. But what was I
couldn't they just be doing it to get laid? Like, there are some assholes. Like you're giving a
you're right
here to these, and some of these cunts might be just wanting free drinks. Some of them might just wanting to get laid, and this asshole just might have wanted to look good in front of these other ministers.
Yeah, I kind of went on a little tangent there, and I was going somewhere with it, and I forgot. But yeah, you're right. There was this one video where like this guy got all these. He was holding a bunch of shop bags, and you could tell he was out of rag. And the guy confronted him and made this big scene in the mall and kind of called this guy out. And there is this, stolen valor, I think, is illegal. I'm not sure, but there is like there are stolen valor websites. But the problem too is with these videos, a lot of bad can happen. I mean, confrontations, anything can happen. Guns can come out, people can get hurt, and unfortunately, a lot of times there are legit people that get, people call them out for having stolen valor and they actually don't. They're legit. And I can understand that because, like I said before, like I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years. I was in from 99 to 04. And I did 3 deployments. One was to Okinawa, and then one was to Okinawa/Iraq, and the other one was to Iraq, both in different places. But I don't remember a lot. I don't remember a lot of the terminology. I mean, I let that shit go. But I never was fully invested to begin with. I mean, I did my job. I never got in trouble. I mean, except for, I think I got in trouble once for being late a few times. But yeah, I did my shit. I did what I had to do and I got out. I was never invested. So I don't remember a lot. And so I can understand, like, if somebody were to approach me and I could tell them my MOS is 6113, but I couldn't tell them a lot of other stuff. In fact, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was out of the Marine Corps for like 5 years until I got a civilian job working on the helicopter that I worked on. I didn't remember shit. It took me like a good year and a half to remember everything that I learned before in order to get my qualifications and everything. So yeah, but yeah, so stolen valor it's kind of a problem, and it's unfortunate because there are people that do die out there that they give their lives and it hurts a lot of people, and then other people dress up in this uniform. Because as a Marine, the one thing I do remember, it sounds cheeky and a little cheesy, but I earned the title of being a Marine. I earned that shit. Like I went through a lot of shit for that. Every Marine does, And I would argue that every service earns their shit too. They're just not as dickish about it as the Marine Corps is. But so when I see somebody who fakes it or over exaggerates, that was the tangent I was getting on about the over exaggeration about is like what I've seen and everything. I didn't see a lot. And going back to what I was just about to say, I don't like bragging about it. I don't ever brag about it now, and I'm proud of it. And some people though feel like they have to brag because they need to feel like they're part of something, because you always want to be what everyone else respects. You know, you always like whenever the rhetoric for the last 10, 15 years has been, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Our soldiers are awesome. Like you want to feel that you're part of that, you know, and if you're in it, you don't want to be part of it because it's really weird and confusing and uncomfortable. But when you're out of it, you want to be part of that because maybe you didn't get that in life. I don't know what the backstories of these people are, but I can understand where they're coming from, but I also look at it and I don't like it because I earned that. I went through a lot of bullshit, to do what the country needed me to do, and
let's be honest.
If you didn't earn it,
let's be honest though, Jay, you're not about to go to the fucking shopping mall in your fucking uniform, fucking buying fucking clothes, right?
I don't even have my uniforms anymore. I could probably still purchase them, but
I understand. I understand your point of maybe like a weak-minded individual pretending to be something he's not, to be part of something. But in the original, like the OP of this segment, he is something. He's the fucking defense minister.
Well, no, I guess what I was trying to say is I can kind of relate to your anger and frustration. Yes. Yeah, like I know they're different scenarios, but I understand like frustration because he didn't earn that. If he didn't do it, he didn't earn that shit. So don't fucking brag about it.
It's not a bragging. Like I'm reading, I'm just skimming over the speech. That was one line. Like in the overall context of the speech, it's like if I were someone reading to the speech, I might circle that and say question mark really. But the whole speech is not actually about him bragging. It's about he's speaking in front of India to the Observer Research Foundation. So he's speaking and I guess he's touting Canada's role in certain military efforts. It doesn't come across that he's bragging about himself. It's more of a sort of intergovernmental or a international military.
But he does say that he was the architect.
Yeah, he does say that, but it's not like the central point of the speech.
Okay, but so it's not the central point of the speech, but it's a
it's like if it's a falsehood, it's a falsehood. But let me get that way. But like, if we're going to characterize it as him like bragging about himself, like
but he lied though.
I mean, like, okay, if the point of him bringing it up isn't to boast like his role in it, why did he bring it up?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I have another question though, and I don't mean for this question to come off as rude or anything, but as much as I understand the frustration, it seems like why are you so mad about it? I mean, I can understand being like, what?
Like, I'm not like screaming mad about it is, but so it was the bloodiest battle in Afghanistan for my country. So we lost the most men.
You know what? I'll be fair. I keep losing sight of that, and I apologize. I don't mean to.
Men and women in that entire war.
Yeah,
we were there for 15 years with you guys.
Look, hold on.
We lost the most out of any day of the entire war, and he claims that he planned.
Yeah. Okay. I humbly apologize because for some fucking reason I lost sight of that.
I'm not tear my house down.
Yeah.
But I am.
No.
My countrymen.
Yeah, I completely apologize. I definitely get that now. Yeah, because like I said, when you forget about that and you keep focusing on like the prime minister and this or the defense minister and all this shit, it's easy to kind of play devil's advocate. But every time, fair point.
But let's. I should also be a little bit realistic about and that one's going to sound douchey, the amount of people that died, because like on our side, so on the American and the Canadian side, we did not suffer the casualties that obviously the other side did. So if you're on the other side, you're looking at us, laughing at us, being pissed off that a few of our soldiers died, right?
Oh, I'm not.
No, but I'm saying like on the other side, like if you're if you're an Afghani, and I'm like, fucking 150 of our, I don't know the exact number, so I'm just throwing this out there. 150 of our men died that day. They're like, bitch, 5,000 of ours died that day. You know what I mean? So yeah. And the other thing, David, that I would say about that is that he, in his statement, he said that, correct me if I'm wrong, because you read it, that it took 1,500 Taliban soldiers off the battlefield.
He says he removed 1,500 Taliban servers.
So that is kind of bragging.
Yeah.
Right?
If it's wrong, then it's wrong. If it's not true, then you should be called out for it not being true.
Yeah, so it's not true.
Okay.
And he's admitted that he that he lied, right? He admitted that it wasn't true, and he said that he took 1,500. So I don't know. I don't.
If you didn't do it with the jawbone from a donkey, I'm not impressed. Hashtag Bible stories.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, Jason. I'm a little bit romantic when it comes to stuff like that. Like, I won't say romantic, but I have like a sense of. I think people should do what they say and say what they do, right? You know what I mean? Like, and so especially I have I don't have the type of admiration where I'm like, soldiers can do no wrong and fucking respect the soldiers, but I have admiration for what it takes to put yourself out there. Because let's be honest, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's one of the harder. It's one of the harder things, and you go full well knowing that you may die. Yeah. Right. So I do. Oh yeah. I do hold it in higher regards than I would if just a regular politician lied about getting his dick sucked. Like, I think it's way worse.
And I will say, too, to kind of follow up what I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with romanticizing that. You know, there's nothing. I mean, people play, video games all the time that deal with war. I don't. Even I do that sometimes. Even though I serve, I still do that. Like, so it's when you take that extra step and actually cosplay that idea. Yeah. And then, but even then, like, even if you cosplay it, it's still kind of irritating, but it's not as bad as when people use that to get discounts. Even I don't get military discounts. I don't want them. I don't do military discounts, and I don't really talk about it that much because I don't, it was something I did, but it's like, I don't need people to falsely admire me because I did a thing, many years ago. Like, I don't need anybody's thanks. It's something I did, and I want people to admire me because I did something worth their admiration or whatever. Yeah. No. So again, it's nothing wrong with the romanticism of being a soldier and like, oh man, I killed like 4,000 of Charlies in one day and like saved like 60. Like, I still do that. I watch Band of Brothers. I'm like, fuck yeah, man. And I look at those guys. I'm like, man, yeah, that in the Pacific. Well, I'm more partial to the Pacific because of the Marines, but yeah, I mean, those motherfuckers, they could fight. So yeah.
But if you are one of those douchebags that goes into a bar dressed in a fucking doesn't matter if it's a Marine uniform or Army or Air Force or Navy, and you never served and you're doing it to get free drinks, go fuck yourself. Yeah. Like, for real.
Yeah. Yep, I don't do the benefits. I don't do the VA. That's only because I just don't want to deal with the hassle of the VA. But I just do my own thing, and I try to do the best I can. And nothing wrong with people that get those discounts.
Are you still dealing? Jason, are you still dealing with the VA in some way?
I've never ever dealt with the VA, and I know it's. I don't know even how the insurance works. I'm sure it'd be discounted, but I've heard so many horror stories that I would, and not just with like the bad procedures, but also with just the service that people have to go through. I mean, there's a lot of things I could apply disability for. I've never applied for disability because I feel like I can still walk, I can still breathe. I'm sure I got pain, I got tinnitus, I got a lot of shit wrong with me, but I'm still fucking moving, and and I try to just, I don't want to suck off the government.
You hear that, American in them, boys? You hear that, American in them, boys?
If I need it, I need it, but I don't. I'd rather just pay my own way. There's nothing less American than what I just said. Everybody's trying to suck off the government's tit. I'm trying to get away from it.
No, the healthcare thing.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's the most American thing. Like, I don't need your fucking handout. I don't need your doctors. Like, I can still hobble on my stump of a leg, and I mean that's.
You know what? You know what it is? This is probably the douchiest thing I'm ever going to say as the real me. As the real me, this is going to be the douchiest thing I ever say. But I mean this. But I want to be a manly man. I'm not saying people that need the government's help. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. If you need it, you need it. But until I need it, I'm not going to use it because I just feel like.
Okay, so
I am.
Hang on 1 second.
And I'm as liberal as they come. I'm sorry to be so American. Okay. I'm so sorry.
Whoa, boom. Let's stop and. Yeah, so let's stop the okay, I'm going to say one thing and then we'll stop the segment and then I'll get. Okay, so like when the story first broke earlier, I was super upset about it. I wasn't like fucking jumping out my window upset, but I thought he should probably be stripped of his position. I don't know if I still feel that way or not. Okay, and we're back from the break, and as always, this is Piss on This.
So, Dave found me a very nice clip this week where Alex Jones takes a moment to brag about his sexual conquest as a young man and how everyone else is far, far behind in the game of masculinity and conquest. And I would like to point out that he did all this before going on alpha male ultra vitality. What a hero.
You're supposed to have children by 16 in every culture biologically. If you're not having them by 16, there's something wrong with you. Oh, but see, there's college, the priesthood you've got to get into. And then by then, you got to make money because you're in debt. Oh, don't have time for kids. They wrote books about in the 20s, how they do this. Don't have time for kids. You're trying to get out of debt. Oh, you're 40. You're finally halfway out of debt. Oh, you want to have some fun now. Oh, you try to find a woman. Oh, she's barren. She's doing the same thing. By the time you figure out you want to live, by the time you hit 16 at 40, I'm giving you the big knowledge here, folks. At 40, on average, and they did this by design, you are now the equivalent of a 16-year-old. When I was 16, I didn't want to party anymore. I didn't want to play games anymore. I grew up. I'd already been in the fights, all the big rituals. I'd already had probably, I hate to brag, I'm not bragging, it's actually shameful, probably 150 women or more. That's conservative. I'd had over 150 women. I'd already been in fights with full-grown men. I was already dating college girls by the time I was 15 years old. I was already a man at 16.
I wish everyone at home, please look up this video. He's literally drawing little stick figure male characters and writing down man and drawing little lines. And like, oh my God.
By the way, when I say I want to be manly, I'm not talking about that kind of douchey manly, by the way.
The only thing I'm thinking of during that video is what is like dirty talk to Alex Jones, like 9/11 was an inside job. Fucking
can I tell you guys what I think? Okay, I legit think that the whole thing is an act. I've been watching him since about 2005. I remember watching my first video when I used to be a conspiracy theorist. And even then, I bought into his shit, but he seemed a little too wild for me to where I couldn't take it seriously. But I mean, I know Trump says a lot of crazy shit, but the things that Alex does is like a better version of Pastor Jay. I honestly believe that. And I think the reason why he's still able to do what he does is because A, it's a distraction, B, it's funny, and C, it's just a way to dilute information to make it so it's harder to tell what's real and what's not anymore. I'm not saying that's the conspiracy and there's some big group behind it. I'm not saying that at all. And I doubt that the people that are keeping him on air even know that that's a thing. But I think that is part of it, and it seems to work for him. And now it's coming out because he's trying to keep custody of his kids that his lawyer is saying, no, Alex Jones, the whole thing's an act. A lot of people think that that the lawyer is saying that, just because, so Alex can keep the kids or whatever that whole debacle is. But I've thought for the longest time that this guy is just an act. And when I laugh at him, I don't laugh at him the same reason everyone else laughs at him. I laugh at him because I understand the humor behind it. Most people laugh at him because he looks like a crazy person. I'm like, I get what you're doing, dude. And I legitimately think that he is not real. And whether or not other people are aware of it, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not saying Fox News knows that he's not. But I do think that he is fake, and a lot of people, and a few people in his circle know about it. I truly believe that.
So, okay, so this is my segment that I tend to do here, and it's pretty much like the low-hanging fruit hour, where we find crazy people, and we constantly find ourselves in the conversation that we're having right now as to, is this legitimate? Is this satire? Is this Poe? Is this person real or not? And that's actually what, the last episode we discussed about Alex Jones was his kid's case. And I bounced back. To be honest, I don't even know what my opinion was at the end of the last show. That's how unsure I am about this. But did you hear that the case for his children is over? He lost.
No, wow.
Did you hear that? Okay, so I have an article here. It's on the Daily Beast, and the point is he goes on the stand. Okay, the judge isn't allowing Alex InfoWars stuff to be used during the trial. The only videos they have is one where he's, in his personal life doing some shit and asking questions. The other ones were smoking weed on Joe Rogan. While he's on the stand, they're not asking him about his motherfucking show. He's talking about George Soros. It really seems like it's not something he can turn off. I mean, his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe the character,
yeah.
Maybe the character became the man, right? So it started out as because I'm on the fence. So I see how much money the guy makes, and I'm like, he knows. Come on, somebody really believes that there's the child molesters from different fucking dimensions. Give me a break.
He is no different than John Lear, who is probably 10 times crazier than David Icke, in my opinion, except for one thing, and that's how he presents himself. And that's why his shit sells, because nobody's going to watch anything on what David Icke has to say. David Icke he's settled for just doing tours around, theaters here and there and giving his talks about his crazy shit. John Lear, he's kind of quiet now, but you go on his website and first of all, it's like an 80s website, black background and shit, but he's fucking nuts. But they don't present themselves the same way Alex Jones does. But nobody talks as much about them, in the crazy sense, as they do. But Alex Jones, he just knows how to make himself. He's just the loudest guy in the room, and everyone's gonna, everyone looks at him. And then he becomes kind of the joke. But there are people like myself back in the day who actually kind of bought into a lot of this shit. And you start to get overwhelmed because then you start to accept every conspiracy theory, but in different universes in a way, because you don't realize that you're accepting them all at once. But there are so many people. So even though Alex Jones may be a hoax, there are a lot of people who actually do think the way he does now because of the things he says. And if he is a Poe, first of all, if he's a satirist or whatever, a Poe, he's a bad one because he's not like a good satirist is one that you can kind of see through. Like, they're not real. Like Pastor Jay. I'm not saying I'm a good satirist, but I am saying I know how to make it so it's obvious to most people, right?
Okay. So to be real clear real quick, the difference between like someone that's doing satire and a Poe is that the other side unironically takes you in as one of them. So that's actually what makes you a Poe, is that they have to believe.
Maybe. Okay. Right. You're right. Yeah. But either way, if that's the case though, and you have all these people believing what he believes, and if he is a Poe or whatever, that makes him the worst person on the planet, because so many people, this can harm so many people. In fact, like look at that Coast to Coast episode where I forget who it was, but somebody went on to Coast to Coast back when the Hale-Bopp comet was coming by, and said he had all these pictures of these UFOs behind the comet. Well, it's argued that that's what kind of catapulted that cult to kill themselves, because they heard that episode of Coast to Coast, and they got in trouble, I think, or they at least got like investigated.
So to make a correction of what I said earlier, some InfoWars clips actually did gain some traction in court, namely the one that we just played was used against them. And hold on, I just want to read this real quick. Regardless, the juries and the assorted onlookers have been treated to a healthy dose of Alex Jones, who in real life, in the courtroom, without cameras, does in fact bear a strong resemblance to the on-air dynamo who brought us Hillary from prison and the infamous Gay Frogs rant. Under cross-examination, he spoke not only about George Soros and overtly potent marijuana, but also his taste for zebra meat and canned exotic game hunts, and confirmed that a big bowl of hot Texas chili caused him to forget details about his kid's life, which he referenced in his deposition. So,
a guy that says that he fought grown men at the age of 15 gets fucked up by a bowl of chili. Okay, moving on.
I love the clip where he comes back and he just ate peppers on the break and he's just sweating and choking. Anyway, okay. This is what I think happened with Alex Jones. There are a lot of conspiracies that are true. There are a lot of shady things that go down, and he made a career out of focusing on those. You're someone that reads conspiracy theories, and at one time you said you believed a little bit.
No, I believed a lot.
Oh, okay, I believed a little bit. Man. You see how deep the hole goes.
Yeah.
And the more you go in, it's almost like the less evidence, the more evidence you can make up for yourself. So I believe that he stretches to bring people in, but he believes the core of his message. And if you go back to the last episode, that's what he said in his video where he was driving around in his car. I believe these things. I stretch it out. I don't know.
There's this phrase, and I'm going to botch it because it's been a long time since I remember. I don't know where I got it from. And I got to go after this because I'm about to fall asleep. But it's something. It's like dealing with conspiracy theories. It's something to the effect of evidence for the conspiracy theory is evidence for the conspiracy theory. Evidence against the conspiracy theory is like made up, so therefore it proves a conspiracy theory. Lack of evidence for the conspiracy theory, yes. and it goes on to show that with a conspiracy theory, but in a nutshell, with conspiracy theories, people want to own things. They want to have control of things, and so when something happens, like the God Kennedy gets shot by this measly old dude. No. He was a fucking Jesus Christ. It couldn't have been some fucking piece of shit up in a depository. It was the whatever, like make up whatever conspiracy theory you want. So people don't like that. It's too easy. And then people want to be able to say, I know what nobody else knows because I'm not a sheep. Mm-hmm. And it's a very addicting thing. It's very addicting. Yep.
It is.
So,
well, man, thanks for coming out. Thanks for staying up with us.
Let's get you to pimp all your stuff at the end here, Jason. So go ahead and tell everybody where we can get a hold of you, where we can find your music, what's coming out in the future.
All right. Well, before I talk about the music, there's the podcast that I will start again. It's on Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher. It's called Know the Truth. It's KONW, the TRUT, and a couple of exclamation points. But with my music, it's aloststateofmind.com and aloststateofmind.bandcamp.com. And I have a hybrid-ish album coming out in a few weeks. I'm still working on a few things, waiting on artwork and shit. And then after that, we're going to start working on what we hope to be a double album. But that's ambitious. But we'll see. But that's going to take the rest of the year probably. So, but yeah, feel free to chat with me and ask questions and all that fun shit.
Right on. Well, it was a pleasure having you again, man. Always enjoy your company, and you're a great conversation.
Right on. I appreciate that.
It was a personal pleasure to me, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, definitely. Likewise.
Yes, sir.
Thumbs up to you.
Yeah. All right, everybody out there. Good night.
This was the Wayward Atheist Podcast. Visit our new website at waywardatheists.com. Follow us on Spreaker, spreaker.com/waywardatheists. You can email us at waywardatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at waywardatheists and on facebook.com/waywardatheists. If you enjoy our content, feel free to leave us a review on iTunes and feel free to support us at patreon.com/waywardatheists.